Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's stories are a roller coaster, from family betrayals to fiery TikTok fails, cat drama to fake influencers getting exposed. Whether it's calling out a manipulative brother or standing your ground over your daughter's bedroom, these people aren't pulling any punches, and honestly, I'm here for it. Let's dive in. I tricked my cat and my girlfriend thinks I'm cruel. Hey everyone, I could really use your honest take on this. I'm a 23-year-old guy, and my 19-year-old girlfriend says I'm being awful for lying to our 2-year-old cat. I know it sounds kind of dumb, but she insisted I get an outside opinion, so here I am. I just don't feel comfortable leaving the kitchen door open when I'm not around. Our cat isn't exactly a genius, and I worry he might tangle himself in something he shouldn't. To keep him out, I stash a tiny pouch of kitty treats by the door. When I call his name and he doesn't show, I give that pouch a little shake to lure him out, then shut the door behind him. But here's the thing, I don't actually hand him a treat every single time. Some days I scoop him up for a big old smooch instead, and other times he really does get a snack. My girlfriend says that's messed up, like I'm tricking him into expecting a treat only to let him down, and she thinks that disappointment is unnecessarily cruel. It's not a massive issue, it just comes up whenever I skip the treat. Normally it doesn't cause any real drama between us, but this time she dug her heels in and demanded I poll literally anyone else on the internet to see if I'm in the wrong. So I'll be reading your replies along with her. Tell me, am I being fair here? Who knew a little treat tease could stir up such a debate? Honestly, if the cat's fine and still purring, is it really that deep? Next up, a guy finds out the hard way that watching your partner work from home can open up a whole new can of resentment, especially when they're making twice your salary for half the effort. My girlfriend makes $120,000 and just slack-offs. Am I overreacting? I've been stewing over this and could use some outside perspective. Am I the bad guy for being irritated that my girlfriend barely works during her day but still pulls in nearly twice my salary? We're both in tech, but our routines look totally different. She's a software safety validator at a consulting firm, and I handle infrastructure support. Back when we were in separate offices, I only had a vague idea of her day, just that she earned $120,000 to my $66,000, and she says all that extra cash comes from hopping between jobs. Now that we're both working from home, I get a front row seat to her schedule, and it's wildly different from mine. She drags herself out of bed around 9:15 a.m., rolls into her home office just in time for the daily stand-up at 9:30 a.m., then disappears for a shower and breakfast until about 10:45 a.m. while she checks a few Slack pings and listens to podcasts. After that, she puts in work from roughly 10:45 a.m. until noon, then takes a full hour-long lunch until 1 p.m. From 1 to 4 p.m., she's back at her desk, sometimes hopping between meetings, sometimes doing deep dives. At 4 p.m. she'll spend an hour or so juggling house chores, all while glancing at her phone in case any emails buzz in. After that, she shuts off work notifications until the next morning. So on paper, she's actively working about 4.5 hours a day, with another couple hours of half attention on household stuff. Meanwhile, I'm logged in from 8:30 a.m. straight through to around 5 or 6 p.m., no mid-morning showers, no long breakfast breaks, no chore intermissions. I'm pulling 9-hour days, non-stop. A few weeks back I finally snapped and told her that if she's only putting in half the time, her company is overpaying her. She got defensive, said they know her worth, they hired her for her expertise, and it's not my place to judge how she spends her workday. She reminded me she chose this job for its work-life balance, that she left more demanding roles behind on purpose. I pushed back, saying she's got a pretty privileged gig. Most folks can't pick up 6 figures and then drift off for hours every morning. All I was pointing out was that she's working half as hard as plenty of people who earn way less. She got mad, insisting I have zero say in how her time is valued. So here I am, wondering, was I out of line for calling her out on slacking when she's making more money? Am I the bad for what I said about my girlfriend's work ethic? Sometimes success comes with balance, and sometimes, watching someone else live that balance can mess with your pride. Now let's switch gears to a story where makeup sparks mayhem, and one guy's brother takes insecurity to a whole new level. I shut down my brother's wild cheating makeup conspiracy. Was I too harsh? Hey everyone, I need your judgment on this one. When my brother started accusing my wife of plotting to cheat just because she's been wearing more makeup, I lost my cool and called him an insecure, chauvinistic manchild. Now I'm second-guessing whether I went too far. My brother and I are both in our late 30s and usually get along fine, but social situations have never been his strong suit. He tends to blurt out inappropriate comments, get overly opinionated, and miss every cue about when to tone it down. Our wives are basically best friends, they FaceTime almost every day. My wife used to model and even dabbled in acting, so she's really good with makeup. Now in her mid-30s and a mom of 3, she doesn't usually go all out, but for Christmas she got a nice makeup set and decided to treat herself to some higher-end products. Over the last month, she's been experimenting, trying bold eyeshadow looks, testing different brushes, layering products here and there. I'll be honest, I don't know a thing about the techniques, but she always looks amazing. I tease her a bit since she often works in her pajamas, yet somehow her morning makeup looks like she's headed to a nightclub. It's all in good fun, I love watching her get creative. This morning my brother calls, saying he's worried because he's seen her club-ready looks over FaceTime and assumes she must be sending pics to some guy or guys. He was convinced there was some secret motive behind her hobby. I tried to calm him down and explain nothing shady was happening, but he kept pushing. That's when I snapped and told him he was being an insecure, chauvinistic manchild who needed to mind his own business. After the blow-up, I thought, did I cross a line by unloading that insult, even if he was way off base? I haven't even asked my wife why she's been playing with makeup more lately. I figure it's her money and her creative outlet, and I don't want to kill her vibe. She's happy, and that's good enough for me. So what do you think, was I the bad for blowing up at my brother over his wild conspiracy, or was I right to defend my wife? Defending your spouse from wild accusations? That's called being a good partner, not a bad guy. But when someone crosses a boundary you explicitly laid out, especially with your kid's most precious keepsake, things get serious real fast. He stole my daughter's heirloom, so I called the cops. Am I the bad for pressing charges when my stepson took something my daughter inherited from her mom? I'm a 45-year-old guy and I've been with my wife for 2 years. She has a 20-year-old son from a previous relationship. I also have a 15-year-old daughter from my first marriage. My late wife passed away in 2015 and left a gold jewelry set for our girl. She'd always been heartbroken she never got to hand that set to our daughter on her wedding day, so I keep it locked in my closet until that time comes. Last week, we were in the kitchen when my stepson nervously asked if he could borrow that set for his fiancée to wear at her cousin's wedding. I flat out refused, told him that jewelry wasn't his to touch, it was meant for my daughter. He got mad, but I warned him not to bring it up again. Sure enough, when he and his fiancée were at the wedding, the set vanished. My wife and I tore the house apart, then I called him to say I'd involved the police because I assumed it was stolen. He insisted he'd borrowed it and would return it right after the ceremony. I kept ringing him until midnight, but he finally begged me to stop and promised to bring it back in the morning. That night I barely slept. At 10 a.m. the next day, he showed up, but with empty hands, saying he'd forgot. By then it was obvious he'd handed it off to his fiancée and was stalling. I warned him one last time, return it today or I'm pressing charges. My wife pointed out that even though his fiancée wanted the set, it was he who took it and ultimately I'm responsible for whatever happens to it. His grandparents backed him up and called me cruel for threatening legal action. I gave him one final chance, but when he didn't pick up my calls, I went ahead and filed the charges today. Now everyone says calling the police was overkill. They're pressuring me to drop it, so tell me, am I the bad for pressing charges? Some things aren't replaceable, and if someone treats your child's inheritance like a costume prop, they should be ready for consequences. Speaking of consequences, imagine letting family crash at your place and the next thing you know, they're lighting your bathroom on fire for internet clout. You won't believe what my nephew did for TikTok, it almost burned my house down. I'm a 32-year-old woman, and a couple of weeks ago, I let my brother and his family stay with me. My brother is 43, and he moved in along with his wife and their 2 kids, a 9-year-old girl and a 15-year-old boy. They were staying with me because both he and his wife lost their jobs during the pandemic and ended up getting evicted. Now, having 4 extra people in my house was definitely a lot, but I didn't want to see them end up on the street. They promised it would just be temporary. But everything went sideways 2 days ago, when my nephew literally set my bathroom on fire, all for a TikTok video. He later explained that it was part of some online challenge. Apparently, the trend involves spraying hairspray on a mirror, lighting it, and watching it burn a cool shape that supposedly fizzles out on its own. Only that's not what happened. His little stunt caught a pile of towels on fire, and things got out of control fast. We had to evacuate the house. Thankfully, the fire station's close by, so they were able to get it under control before it spread. The bathroom? Toasted. The rest of the house was okay, but that guest bathroom is going to need serious repairs. Honestly, I was furious. I feel like my brother and his wife were totally careless for letting this happen. Especially since the lighter the kid used? It was my brother's. So that means the kid either took it without asking, or they knew and didn't stop him. After thinking it over, I told them they've got 1 week to move out. I just can't take a chance on something like this happening again. They apologized and asked me to think it through, saying it was just an accident and no one got hurt. They reminded me that if I make them leave, they'll be homeless again. And they brought up my niece. She didn't do anything wrong, after all. I'm not asking them to pay for the bathroom repairs, they straight up don't have the money. But I also don't feel safe in my own home anymore. Now they're trying to guilt me, saying I'm heartless for kicking them out over a mistake. But come on, they're worried about being homeless? I could have lost my entire home. When you're living in someone else's house, you follow basic rules. And rule number 1? Don't burn the freaking place down. It's wild how one dumb challenge can turn into a full-blown emergency, and sometimes, the people closest to you are the biggest liability. Now for a story where boundaries were bulldozed, literally. When a son and his wife try to kick a teenager out of her own room, mom draws the line. They tried to steal my daughter's room for their baby, so I kicked them out. I'm a single mom with 2 kids, my son Liam, who's 22, and my daughter Olivia, who's 15. My husband passed away when Olivia was just 10, and since then, it's just been the 3 of us. I've had to push through a lot. Raising 2 kids alone is no joke, and honestly, I've rarely had anyone in my corner. People around here don't exactly go easy on single moms, and I've spent years trying not to let the pressure break me. Through all of that, I've done my best to raise strong, independent kids. And Olivia? She's my whole world. She's been through more than most girls her age, and yeah, maybe I'm a bit protective of her, but she deserves that. A while back, Liam and his wife found out they were expecting a baby. He had been out of work for months, and when they couldn't afford their apartment anymore, they moved in with me and Olivia just until they could get back on their feet. But things started going downhill fast. Liam's wife began barging into Olivia's room without asking, taking her stuff and even damaging a few things. Then they brought in boxes of baby stuff and started piling it all into Olivia's room. I told them the storage room was where that stuff needed to go, but Liam made excuses, something about the baby gear getting ruined. Then they started dropping hints about staying even longer, not just until the baby's born, but for months after. One day, his wife actually suggested we move Olivia into my bedroom so they could turn Olivia's room into a nursery. I shut that down immediately. That wasn't happening, period. Liam backed off, but his wife didn't. She kept pestering Olivia, trying to convince her to give up her room for the baby. Olivia finally came to me in tears, and I told Liam's wife to knock it off and leave Olivia alone. But yesterday? I walked into a nightmare. I came home to find Liam moving Olivia's stuff out of her room, replacing her things with baby furniture. Olivia was sitting on the couch, crying. I walked into what used to be her space, and everything was changed: her bed, her posters, even the artwork her dad left her. Gone. I confronted them, and Liam tried to blame it all on his wife. She told me she figured she'd talk it over with me later, like it was no big deal. I snapped. She even had the nerve to suggest Olivia move into the storage room. I told them both to pack up and leave. They fought me on it for over an hour, but I stood firm. Eventually, they left. That night, my mom and sister blew up my phone, asking how I could just throw out my own son. They begged me to let him move back in and accused me of playing favorites. Turns out, Liam's wife had already planned to post pics of the new nursery on Facebook, like this was something to show off. But here's the truth, my son and his wife seem to think that just because they're having a baby, the world needs to rearrange itself around them. But I still have a daughter who's a child, and it's my job to protect her first. Kids aren't backup plans, and when you steamroll one child to make room for another, don't be surprised when it all falls apart. And now, a petty little moment of truth that turned into full-blown internet chaos. When fake vibes meet real consequences? It gets juicy. She faked her life for likes. So I let her post something that exposed her. Okay, so I've got this friend, or maybe I should say former friend, who's deep into the influencer game. She's a mom and built up a pretty decent following on social media by pretending to keep it real. But here's the thing, none of it's actually real. She constantly copies stuff from other people. Inspirational posts? Stolen. Heartfelt confessions about motherhood, body image, mental health? All ripped off from smaller creators, with a few words swapped out to make it sound like her own story. She even grabs memes and photos, reposts them, and acts like she created them. And yeah, I'll admit it, maybe I was a little jealous at first. But the longer I watched her fake everything, the more annoyed I got. It just felt gross, like watching someone build a career on lies while pretending to be this super relatable mom everyone could trust. So when a dumb little challenge started going around online, the hidden cat challenge, I decided to mess with her a bit. If you don't know it, it's where people post pictures with a hidden cat in them and challenge others to find it. I sent her a screenshot from friends, Monica's apartment, with no cat anywhere in sight. I figured she'd recognize it and get a laugh out of it. Instead, she posted it everywhere, claiming it was her latest Airbnb. She even wrote up this whole fake story about how a stray cat lived there and challenged her followers to find it in the photo. I just sat there in disbelief. So I asked her, why would you lie like that? And she said, it's just content. No one's gonna know. I didn't say anything else. I figured, let's just see what happens. And wow, did it blow up. People started calling her out immediately. They recognized the photo, pointed out the lies, and basically dragged her all over the internet. She tried to defend herself for a while, but eventually, she deleted the post and shut off comments on all her accounts. Now she's blaming me, saying I'm the bad guy for letting her post it. She says I've ruined her sponsorships and messed with her income, that her kid might go hungry now because of me. But let's be honest. If your whole brand is built on fakery, and someone hands you the rope, and you decide to tie it around your own neck, that's on you. If your whole brand is a lie and you get caught? That's not sabotage, that's karma with a front row seat. Finally, we close out with a story that proves family can feel more like a threat than a support system, especially when someone crosses the line from borrowing to stealing. He stole my daughter's inheritance, so I had him arrested. I'm a 46-year-old guy, and a couple of years ago, I married my current wife. She has a 22-year-old son, and I've got a 15-year-old daughter from my previous marriage. My late wife, my daughter's mom, passed away in 2013. Before she died, she made sure to leave behind a few special things for our daughter. One of those things was a beautiful gold jewelry set, valuable, sentimental, and meant to be a wedding day gift when she's older. Since my daughter's still too young for that, I've kept it locked away in my bedroom closet, safe and untouched. I made a promise that I'd hold on to it until the day she gets married, just like her mom would have wanted. Now last week, something happened that pushed me to my limit. We were in the kitchen when my stepson, who I get along with for the most part, got this weird, nervous look on his face. He said he wanted to ask me something but didn't know how. Turns out, his fiancée saw the jewelry set in my closet and wanted to borrow it to wear to her cousin's wedding. I was stunned. First of all, how did she even see it? What was she doing in my bedroom? Second, it's not mine to lend out. It belongs to my daughter. I told him straight up that the jewelry wasn't an option. He said maybe he could talk to my daughter directly and convince her. I told him not to even mention it again. He got annoyed, mumbled something under his breath, and walked off. I figured that was the end of it. Well, fast forward to Saturday, while he and his fiancée were away at the wedding, I noticed something was off. I went to my closet, and the jewelry was gone. I panicked. I told my wife, and we searched the whole house. Then I called my stepson and told him I was reporting the theft to the police. That's when he casually said, "Oh, no worries, I borrowed it. I'll bring it back after the wedding." I blew up. I told him to come back with it immediately. He kept dodging me, said he'd bring it back the next morning. Midnight comes around, and I'm still calling him. He finally says to stop blowing up his phone. The next morning, he rolls in around 10 a.m. No jewelry in sight. He claimed he forgot it again and would bring it the next day. At that point, it was obvious he had given it to his fiancée, and he was just stalling. I told him if he didn't return it today, I was pressing charges. He got defensive. My wife tried to explain to him again that the jewelry isn't mine, it's my daughter's, and I'm legally and emotionally responsible for it. Then the grandparents jumped in. They chewed me out for even thinking about involving the police. Said I was being heartless, extreme, cruel, you name it. But none of them seemed to care that he stole from a 14-year-old girl. He took something irreplaceable that belonged to his stepsister, something meant to connect her to the mom she lost. So I gave him one last shot. He ignored me again. And that was it. I filed the police report and pressed charges. Now his whole family is acting like I'm the villain. But to me? The only cruel thing here is what he did. Some of these stories made me laugh, some made me want to scream, and others? Yeah, they hit way too close to home. But that's life, right? Messy, dramatic, and full of people who somehow think they're the victim. Let me know what you'd do in these situations, and don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more drama-filled deep dives. Catch you in the next one.